Joined now by the former executive producer, Hockey Night in Canada, the co-host of Bob McCown podcast. Mr. John Shannon joins us after the Canucks beat the Oilers on Saturday. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, boys. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. So in the last week, the Canucks have wins against Vegas and wins against the McDavid-less Oilers. We're asking, are they back to being themselves, John?
Who's in goal?
Oh. That's it. And they're doing it without Thatcher Demko.
As of tomorrow, it'll be Thatcher Demko.
Well, there you go. Then the answer as of tomorrow is yes. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's not a knock at Casey DeSmith, who has done yeoman work in the last couple of weeks. But I mean, I think that the difference between this team for the first 55 games was Thatcher Demko, and to have him back and have him healthy will make this team that much more confident. And will make them much more of an imposing figure on the playoff circuit. There's a lot of people, guys, I got to tell you, outside of the province that are saying the Canucks are done. And I don't believe it. I think that this team does have some good leadership. They do have some quality players. But now to have Demko back, I think puts them back on that really elite stage of NHL teams.
Why do you think that sentiment is there? Because it's been in parts of the Lower Mainland too. But what do you think's driving that? Just the fact that they were winning games 6-1 in the fall, and they're not doing that anymore because the wins, for the most part, are still there from quarter to quarter. There's not much difference in the Canucks record from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, if at all. Why do you think there is that sentiment? What do you think is the driving force there?
I do think that if you look since the All-Star break, Blake, they have been as close to 500 as they've have been so far this season. I also think that there's an intangible belief that the great fairy tale story of the Vancouver Canucks in 23-24 can't go on forever. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where you look at it and say, well, they can't be this good all the time, and they don't have playoff experience. And look, they have a couple of injuries and they can't manage it. But you know what? You look at Quinn Hughes play consistently. We've talked every week about JT Miller. I mean, and I fully expect that Pettersson will become a bigger factor too. And I think that that's an important part. Now that Lindholm is back playing as well, I think that this team will be close to being on all cylinders by the time the playoffs start on the weekend.
Canucks had the Canucks had as many losses in this quarter, these 20 games, as they did in the first quarter.
Right.
The only thing that happened was they moved a couple of wins into the OTL column. So the difference, this is their worst quarter, this final 20 games, by 2 points over the third quarter, and the first quarter by 3 points over the second quarter, which was their best quarter. But the difference in quarter to quarter is a maximum of 3 points, which I think blows a lot of people away, including myself.
Yeah, it does. It is surprising. I think there's a real perception that this team has not been playing to what it was a factor for this club prior to the All-Star break. So and I think that there's a lot. There's also that narrative that I do think that there's a lot of people that just can't think that this team is that good. And
I think that's
And yet I think that they consistently disprove that when they get their backs against the wall.
We've seen these teams do this, is that when you go worst to first, generally you're probably not as good as the first place designation is, that you've ridden some helium, you've had a healthy season like the Canucks. Maybe you're not quite as good as that. You're a much better team, but you're maybe not quite that lofty status. And I think that's what we're seeing too, is really nice turnaround season, but you're not a contender yet, right?
Oh, and I would challenge that. Mm-hmm. I think they are a contender, and I think they are a contender particularly with who's going to play goal in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. That can change things. Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. Blake is right about the records. There has been a lot of wins against really bad teams in this final quarter, right? Like that is what has floated that record a little bit if you dig a little deeper.
There's a guy in Port Moody yelling they lost to Arizona on Wednesday.
Yeah, hey, they beat Vegas, they beat Edmonton in a couple of in the last week. And yeah, you're quite right. Other teams have lost to lesser foes. The other thing I wanted you to bring up with him is the CBC headline this morning about Edmonton and Toronto. Apparently Canada believes Edmonton and Toronto are the two teams most likely to end the cup drought.
Wow.
They are the third and fourth best teams in Canada after Vancouver and Winnipeg.
Thank God I don't work at the CBC anymore.
CTV. That was CTV.
Oh, CTV.
Yeah, CTV.
You told me CBC.
No,
Okay. Anyways, well, thank goodness. By the way, thank goodness I don't work at CTV anymore.
Yeah. Who does though? Really? I mean, lights are turning off here.
And don't throw Global in there too, because I work there as well. So don't worry about it. If there's a network in our country, I was there at one point.
No, I just love that headline though, John. Leafs or Oilers? Hockey fans split. And there's no mention of the Canucks or Jets, who are the top two teams.
You know as well as I do, that's because of two people.
Yeah.
That's the two M's, right?
The superstars, yeah.
That's McDavid and Matthews. And there's and rightly so, there's a love affair with what Austin Matthews does on the ice and what Connor McDavid does on the ice. And last I checked, this was a team sport. And Connor's only playing, when he plays, Connor's only playing 22 to 23 minutes a night. And so what are you doing for the other 37 or 38? And that's what both the Jets and the Canucks have done better, I think, than most people realize.
Well, to bring this back to the Canucks, I think that's also contributing to the doubt is that the Canucks superstars not named Hughes aren't exactly hitting on all cylinders right now. Maybe you could give some shine to Miller. But, Pedersen and Besser aren't exactly shooting the lights out right now. And I think that has people doubting as well.
Yeah, I can see that. But, this is, if from a Canucks perspective, you do have to manage expectations. But I think expectations are that they have to go to the conference final, at least, the second round, if they get eliminated in the first round, I'm saying that there will be people inside the organization say we didn't take advantage of everything we should have. Second round, I think that's probably that's a pick 'em.
It's a solid par. Yeah.
Par. Yeah. But to get to the conference final and create some real buzz in BC would be viewed as a huge success for this hockey club.
I know you do some Oilers games, intermissions, panels, things like that. What's the deal with McDavid? What's going on there?
I just think he wants to be 100%, and I think the team wants about 100% when I don't know what the difference is between winning 4 Art Rosses versus 5. They're not going anywhere in the standings. They have home ice in the first round. The opponents are going to be, in no particular order, LA, Vegas, Vancouver through 2 rounds. So they can play anywhere. So the key thing is health. The key thing is, get rid of the nagging injuries. I might even want to suggest that Connor may not play another game in the regular season. I think, by the way, I think that's been considered. Just make him right. He's not going to catch Kucherov. He's not going to catch McKinnon. So don't worry about that kind of silverware. Just worry about the big silverware.
We saw the practice clips. He looks spectacular in practice. Like he's doing he's not so bad. And the fact that they didn't play him against the Canucks leads you to believe, John, they winning the division just wasn't a priority for them. Like they just don't care. First round's the first round, and they'll just deal with whatever home ice advantage comes later when they have to. But they didn't care, did they?
Truthfully, I think it was up to Connor. I think it was up to Connor, and Connor's focused on team success rather than individual success. And because we can sit here and talk about everything that he has done in his career, but he doesn't want to have that asterisk beside his name, never won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
And that's the difference between those types of players, is that there are guys that are out there for the personal accolades. There are guys that are out there for winning trophies. But this guy wants to win the Stanley Cup. He wants an Olympic gold medal in 2026, and he wants a Stanley Cup even before that.
And of course, hasn't even played in a conference final yet, right? Oh, sorry.
No, they did. Yeah, they got
to one conference final and got destroyed by Colorado, swept in 4 games.
And only 1 year left of Leon Draisaitl. So the clock is ticking a tad on that.
And I mean, the consolation for Edmonton and Edmonton fans is that the last 2 times they've been eliminated in the playoffs, the other team went on to win the Stanley Cup. So but McDavid is focused on one thing, and that's winning Lord Stanley.
Yeah. From one Connor to another, Vancouver's Connor, well, Chicago's Connor, but he'll always be ours a little bit. Connor Bedard of North Van. I'm filling out my ballot this week. Are you voting on NHL awards this year, Shannon?
No.
Okay.
I haven't since 19. So
okay. Connor Bedard or Brock Faber? Who do you think's going to win Rookie of the Year?
Oh, Connor Bedard.
You think so?
Yeah. Just pure and simple, just because of name recognition. Yeah. No, I think name recognition and status and pressure. I mean, Brock Faber has had an outstanding season. Make no mistake about it. He's on the verge of being a great player. But no one has played under the spotlight in his first year in this league, not even Connor McDavid, I don't think, than Connor Bedard. Those first 3 weeks of Connor Bedard's traveling roadshow, the crap that he had to go through with the Corey Perry controversy, the measure of this guy's character alone, and him to be able to come back from his injury and still contribute and still have a fan base in Chicago electrified, to me, is well worth the ballot. To the point where I've never done this when I voted, but would you ever consider doing Bedard 1 and leaving 2 blank and putting Faber 3? I don't know. I just think that Connor Bedard, with everything.
I'm afraid of Frank Saravelli may yell at me if I do that.
Who cares? Who cares?
Wouldn't be the first time he yelled at me.
Wouldn't be the first time he's yelled at any of us. So I just think that what everything is that Bedard has gone through from his 18th birthday on has been remarkable. And he deserves every piece of praise that the hockey world can give him.
Lastly, I think we talked about this last week, but you feel pretty good about a Vancouver-Nashville matchup?
I do. The frustration for me, if I'm a Canuck fan, is, 2 time zones, long trips, when Edmonton and Vegas or Edmonton and LA are 2.5 hours, the Vancouver trips, I assume, close to 4 to Nashville. How much of a load will that take? It's going to tell you what, a Nashville Vancouver series is going to be a whale of a series. If it is in fact that series, it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous matchup, and it's going to be fun to watch. But
why do you say that? Why do you think it's going to be so tremendous?
Well, when you look at the great players on both teams, who, if you had to pick between Demko and Saros, it's a pick 'em. You have to pick between Quinn Hughes and Roman Josi, it's a pick 'em. If you give me JT Miller, I'll give you Philip Forsberg. There are, both teams know how to play physical. Both teams know how to skate. I think that they both are coached by guys that are on the cutting edge of the game in so many ways and know how to not only be tactical, but know how to motivate. And Andrew Burnett and Rick Tocchet. It's a really, it's a first round heavyweight battle. And that's kind of cool. And 2 fan bases that want to be part of the solution for their team. The Nashville fans are great. The Canuck fans have proved in the second half of the season to be as active as any in the game. I'm really excited about watching it, and both teams will probably be behind closed doors, be rolling their eyes that, oh my God, we have to play Nashville, or oh my goodness, we're stuck with Vancouver. It's going to be a great series.
John, they'll never get to the point where they choose their own opponents in the playoffs like other leagues have chosen to go to. But what about choosing the format of the 7 games? What about choosing the current format versus 2-3-2 versus?
Oh, we used to have that.
3-3-1, where, because that would give some strategy, some ownership to the division champions, to the upper end team. Why not give them some control here, and again give them something for their efforts of being the superior team in the regular season?
Well, I think that there's the traditional answer that says, well, you have to give every team at least 2 home games. So, and that's the real challenge, because it's not Nashville has played well enough to be first in their division, and they're not a division winner. And so why don't they deserve 2 home dates?
Yeah, because 3-3-1 is interesting to me. But okay, so then even just 2-3-2 versus the current would be.
Well, we had that, and it has gone to the board, and the board has rejected it a couple of times. I will tell you, there's ancient history now, but 1984 Edmonton Islanders, all the Oilers had to do, because that was a 2-3-2 series, all the Oilers had to do was win 1 game on Long Island, and they came home and won all 3, and that's why the Oilers won their first cup in 5 at Northlands Coliseum. And so,
wow.
And that was a 2-3-2 series. And so I'm not sure you want to make those mistakes.
No, it's true. It's a little dangerous in that opening set.
And I think San Jose, Detroit, and Toronto, San Jose had a couple of those series too, 2-3-2s. And people, you don't want to go to a city and play 3 games and be in the same hotel room for 6 or 7 days. You don't. And that's because it's so much out of the realm of what hockey's all about. We don't play 3-game series like we do in baseball. So it's not perfect, but if the Canucks want, if you said we're going to give the higher seeded team the choice to go 2-3-2, I wouldn't have an objection. But buyer beware, man. Buyer beware.
Last question here, Shannon. And I think I know your answer.
Oh.
Should the Canucks stick with towel power?
I have a bias.
I know.
Because
you love Roger Nielsen, right?
Hey, listen, in 1982, I produced all those games. I went down to Butts Giroux's t-shirt shop in Gastown and bought 500 Hockey Night in Canada towels and gave out 500 Hockey Night in Canada towels. Steve Armitage was our host outside the Coliseum, our host. And we gave out 500, and I felt a little bit more responsible for some of those towels waving in that building, that first game of the Chicago series at home after that. So yeah, I would keep it. I mean,
co-opted is the problem, right? It's sort of spread everywhere. It's not Vancouver's own anymore, unfortunately.
But there's always a place for the original, and imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Guys, the Winnipeg Whiteout in 1987 started after the famous Calgary Sea of Red in 1986. And neither in 86 the Flames didn't win the Stanley Cup, in 87 and no, never mind, the Jets haven't won anything. So
yeah, well,
with their whiteout.
It's true.
Well, thank you for the part you played in towel power,
indeed.
And we'll catch up next week.
I got heck from my bosses too. I didn't ask permission to buy the towels too.
Oh wow, you expensed them? How much were they?
But you know what? Back in those days with a nice big blue Hockey Night in Canada stick and puck logo, 500 towels, $500.
I figured bucket towel.
John will be on the plaza handing out towels again.
You'd find John at Rogers Arena this weekend by the Roger Nielsen statue, handing out towels. Thank you, sir. Until next week.
Yeah, the playoffs will be underway next week.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.